All right, so you want to get your CDL, huh? Well, buckle up, because today we're diving deep into the Vehicle Inspection Study Guide. Think of this as your secret weapon, your cheat sheet for crushing that CDL test.
That's right. We're going to walk you through it all step by step. From the in-cab checks to those tricky air brakes to making sure your lights shine brighter than a disco ball.
Because let's face it, this study guide isn't exactly beach reading material.
True, but mastering it is the difference between hitting the road with confidence and being stuck at the parking lot wondering what went wrong.
Not the best mental picture, but point taken. Okay, so let's jump right into it. And where better to start than the part that makes even seasoned drivers sweat a little? The air brake test.
Yeah, the air brake test. Crucial for safety and a big-time examiner favorite. It's also one of the most common areas for those dreaded automatic failures.
Automatic failure. Okay, now you've got my attention.
But don't worry, we're going to break it down so you can ace this thing. Remember, you're not just doing the checks. You're explaining what you're doing and what you're looking for to the examiner.
So it's like a little show and tell with my brakes. Got it. So where do we start this high-stakes brake showdown?
Air brake check. Step 1, we're building up that air pressure.
Okay, engine off, turning the key to the on position. Wait a minute, what are those lights on the dash doing?
Oh, those are your ABS and DEF lights. They should come on for a sec, then turn off. It's like a quick systems check, making sure everything's running smooth.
So lights on, lights off, check. What's next?
Now you turn the key one more click to crank the engine and let her idle. Keep an eye on those air pressure gauges as that pressure builds. You're waiting to hit that governor cutoff point.
Governor cutoff point. Sounds a bit intimidating.
It's just the point where the air compressor stops building pressure. It's usually between 120 and 140 psi, but it'll vary depending on your truck.
Got it. Pay attention to those numbers, they matter. Okay, we hit that magic cutoff number. What happens next?
You'll hear a purge sound. The air system is just releasing that extra pressure, and that's your cue to move on to the next step, checking for leaks.
Leaks. Uh-oh, that doesn't sound good. So do I get down on my hands and knees and start sniffing for escaping air?
Not exactly, haha. We're making sure the system is holding that precious air pressure. Engine's off, key in the on position, and you're going to push in both the tractor and trailer supply valves.
Wait, 2 supply valves? Why 2?
Because the tractor and trailer have separate air brake systems. Think of it like this. The tractor supply valve controls the front brakes. The trailer supply valve controls the rear. Double the brakes, double the safety.
That makes sense. Okay, so both valves are pushed in. What's next?
Now comes the fun part. You're going to fully apply the foot brake and hold it down for 1 full minute. Channel your inner Zen master here. We got to be patient.
A whole minute. What am I looking for while I'm holding that brake pedal down?
Keep your eye on that air pressure gauge. It shouldn't drop more than 4 psi in that minute. If it does, we got a leak somewhere.
Okay, so a steady gauge means no leaks. What if it does drop more than 4 psi?
It's definitely a red flag and something that needs to be fixed right away.
Okay, so we've successfully avoided any leaks. What's next on the air brake checklist?
Now we're moving on to the warning systems, or as I like to call them, the alarms part of the test. These are the guys that'll let you know if that air pressure gets too low. Kind of like a guardian angel for your brakes.
Alarms, huh? Hopefully a little less jarring than my morning alarm clock.
Hopefully. Engine's off, key still on. The study guide says those low air warning devices should go off before the pressure drops below 55 psi.
Okay, 55 psi, got it. What kind of warning devices are we talking about here?
It could be a buzzer, a light on the dash, or both. But here's the thing. You got to show the examiner that these warnings are actually working.
Demonstrate. Should I put on a little performance?
Not quite. You're going to do what we call fanning the brakes. Basically, you're pressing and releasing the brake pedal a few times to release some air pressure. As that pressure drops, you'll be watching the gauge and listening for those warning signals.
Fanning the brakes. Okay, got it. Eyes on the gauge, ears on high alert. Anything else?
Tell the examiner the exact pressure when those warnings went off. That shows them you're paying attention to details and everything's working right.
Okay, so no fudging the numbers. Precision is key. What's next on our air brake adventure?
All right, we're getting to the emergency brake activation, or the buttons section of the test. This is where those red and yellow buttons on the dash come into play.
Buttons. Tell me more about these mysterious buttons.
These guys control the tractor and trailer parking brakes, sometimes called the emergency brakes. They kick in automatically if the air pressure drops too low, like a backup braking system.
Like a safety net for the brakes. Okay. I like it. So what do I do with these magical buttons?
Remember that brake fanning we did before? Same thing here. Keep fanning that pedal and watch for those buttons to pop out. Should happen somewhere between 45 and 20 psi.
Okay, buttons popping out, got it. What happens if they don't pop out?
Same as with the leak test. Just be up front with the examiner. Tell them the pressure when the button popped or if it didn't at all. No hiding anything. We're going for transparency here.
Got it. Transparency is key. Okay, so my buttons popped out right on cue. Does that mean I've aced the air brake test?
Well, you aced the first part. But the air brake test's a two-parter. We'll revisit those brakes a bit later. But for now, let's move on to the rest of that in-cab inspection.
All right. Time to explore the cockpit. What's first on our in-cab checklist?
We'll start with the basics, the windshield and mirrors. They got to be clean and clear, free of any cracks or damage. No driving with a busted windshield or a mirror hanging by a thread.
So no driving with a busted windshield. Got it.
Yeah.
How should I inspect these? Just glance at them.
No, you got to show the examiner you're thorough. Point to different sections of the windshield as you're checking. Do the same for the mirrors. Make sure they're mounted right and they can be adjusted.
Point and inspect. I can handle that. What's next on the checklist?
Time to test those wipers and washers. Make sure those wiper arms and blades are in good shape, not cracked or bent. And, of course, you got to show that the wipers work and that washer fluid's flowing.
So no just pointing and saying, yep, those are wipers. I got to make them dance, huh? A little in-cab performance. Okay, wipers are working, fluid's flowing. What's next?
All right, time to get a little technical. Let's talk electronics. Remember those ABS and DEF lights on the dash, how they came on then turned off?
Yeah, like a little light show.
Exactly. Point those out to the examiner. Remind them they worked right. Don't forget the ABS light on the trailer. Got to make sure that one came on and off too.
Okay, point out the lights. Got it. What about all those other lights and gauges on the dash? Do I need to check those too?
You bet. Make sure all those gauges are working properly, needles moving and all. All the warning lights should light up when you turn that key to on. You don't want any surprises down the road with a gauge that's gone haywire.
Okay, give that dashboard a thorough once-over. Got it. What's next?
Next up, horns. Got to make sure both the air horn and that electric horn are working. Time to make some noise.
Uh-huh. Love it. So both horns get a test toot.
Absolutely. Don't be shy. Give them a good honk. But be mindful of your surroundings. Yeah, maybe give the examiner a heads up before you unleash the sound of freedom.
Uh-huh. All right, examiner, cover your ears. Okay, horns are honking. What's next?
Now we're moving on to the controls on and around the steering column. You'll check those left and right turn signals, the four-way flashers, high beam switch, everything you need to communicate with other drivers.
Okay, so lights and sounds, the language of the road. How do I show these are working?
Just activate each one, say what you're doing out loud, and make sure those corresponding lights are doing their thing.
Got it. Click, making sure those lights are doing their dance. What's next?
All right, let's check out those heater and defroster controls, usually on the center right of the dash. You'll need to show the examiner that they're working right.
So I got to turn those dials and make sure the air is blowing hot or cold as needed? What if it's a scorcher outside and I don't want to turn on the heater?
No worries. You can still demonstrate. Just turn it on for a sec, then off again. The important thing is showing the examiner you know how to use them.
Got it. No need to turn the cab into a sauna. Okay, heater and defroster check. What's next?
Last thing on our in-cab checklist, the emergency equipment.
Okay, safety first. What am I looking for here?
Study guide says you got to have 3 red reflective triangles, a properly charged and secured fire extinguisher, and some spare fuses or circuit breakers.
Got it. Triangles, fire extinguisher, fuses. Where do I usually find all this stuff? Asking for a friend who might forget under pressure.
Don't worry, it's usually pretty standard. Triangles are typically under the passenger seat, fire extinguishers under the driver's seat, and the spare fuses are often in that little compartment above your head.
Got it. Triangles under the passenger, fire extinguisher under the driver, fuses up top. It's a little treasure hunt inside the cab.
Exactly. And by now, those air tanks should be fully charged again. That means we're ready for round 2 of our brake test adventure.
Okay, deep breath in, deep breath out. Time for the final showdown. What's on the agenda for this next phase?
First up, we're going to test those parking brakes.
Wait, didn't we already test the parking brakes with those buttons?
Those are the emergency brakes, remember. The ones that kick in automatically if that air pressure goes south. Now we're checking the parking brakes that you apply manually.
Got it. 2 different sets of brakes with 2 different purposes. Layers of safety, I like it. So how do we test these manual parking brakes?
We're back to those buttons on the dash. For the tractor parking brake test, you're going to pull out the yellow button and push in the red one.
Yellow out, red in. What does that do?
It releases the trailer parking brake and applies the tractor parking brake. Then you put the truck in gear and gently try to move forward. If that parking brake's doing its job, you shouldn't budge an inch.
So it's like a mini tug-of-war with the truck. Okay, what about the trailer parking brake test?
Now you reverse it. Pull out the red button and push in the yellow one. This time you're releasing the tractor brake and applying the trailer brake. Same deal, put it in gear and try to move forward.
Red out, yellow in, and another gentle tug. I'm getting the hang of these buttons. So we've tested the emergency brakes and the parking brakes. What's the final boss battle in this brake testing saga?
The grand finale, the service brake check. This is the brake you use most when you're actually driving. To test this one, you're going to need to drive the vehicle forward at about 5 miles per hour and apply the service brake.
Hang on, I actually get to drive during this test.
Just a little bit. You'll need to find a safe and open spot to drive forward a short distance.
All right, time to put those driving skills to the test. So 5 miles per hour, nice and slow. And then what?
You'll apply the service brake, making sure the vehicle comes to a smooth stop, no pulling to the left or right. Straight and steady wins the race.
Smooth braking and a straight stop. Got it. Does that mean we finally conquered this whole brake test?
You've officially mastered the in-cab portion of the inspection. All those brake checks, done and dusted. Congratulations.
Woo! High fives all around. That felt like climbing Mount Brake Test. But wait, what happens next?
You'll confirm with the examiner that you're done with the in-cab part. We're going to start off with the light operations check.
Lights, camera, action. Let's make this truck shine. Before we start flipping switches, though, where are we exactly for this part of the inspection?
Still in the cab, but you're going to ask the examiner to step outside. Light operations check.
It's a little role reversal. Got it. Examiner's outside, I'm inside, engine's off. What's the first step in this light extravaganza?
First thing is making sure those headlights are switched to low beam. Then you're going to roll down your window and, speaking clearly and loudly, ask the examiner if they can see all your front lights.
Wait a minute, I have to shout out the window like I'm selling something. Get your hot, fresh lights here.
Haha, not quite shouting. But definitely speak up so the examiner can hear you. And here's the key. You got to name each light in a specific order, waiting for the examiner to confirm they see it before moving on to the next one.
So there's a secret handshake for lights. I knew there had to be a trick. Okay, so what's the magic order for these front lights?
The study guide lays it out pretty clear. Clearance and marker lights, left turn signal, right turn signal, four-way flashers, headlights, and finally high beams.
Got it. Clearance, left, right, four ways, headlights, high beams. It's like a little light show choreography. Okay, so I've named all the front lights. Examiner's giving me the thumbs up. What happens next?
Politely ask the examiner to mosey on over to the back of the vehicle. Once they're in position, you'll do the same thing for the rear lights. Same deal, naming each one in order and waiting for that confirmation.
All right, rear lights, same as the front, just a different location. What's the order for this taillight tango?
For the rear lights, it's clearance lights, left turn signal, right turn signal, four-way flashers, brake lights, and running lights.
Clearance, left, right, four ways, brakes, and running lights. Got it. Examiner's happy, I'm happy. Lights are looking good. What's the final step in this light show?
Once you've gone through all the lights, turn that key to the off position and make sure the external light switch is off too. Then, and this is super important, exit the vehicle using 3 points of contact facing the interior of the cab.
Hold on, 3 points of contact. Is this some kind of secret agent maneuver? And why do I got to exit facing the cab?
It's all about safety and showing that you know the right procedures. 3 points of contact means you always have 2 hands and 1 foot or 2 feet in one hand in contact with the vehicle when you're getting in or out.
So no jumping out of the cab like a superhero. Got it. But why the whole face in the cab thing?
Believe it or not, if you exit facing forward, it's an automatic fail on the CDL test. One of those little quirks examiners love.
Okay, noted. Exit facing the cab or it's game over. Got it. So lights are checked. I've exited the vehicle gracefully and safely. What's next on our pre-trip inspection adventure?
Time for the main event, the external physical inspection. This is where you really get up close and personal with your vehicle, checking everything from those tiny cotter pins to those massive frame rails.
All right, let's get this inspection party started. Where do we begin this exterior extravaganza?
Study guide says we start at the front of the vehicle, meeting your examiner there. First thing you're going to check are the lenses and covers of all the lights.
Back to those lights again. I thought we just finished with those.
Well, you checked they were working, but now you're inspecting their physical condition. External physical inspection. You got to make sure all those lenses are the right color, clean, intact, and properly mounted and secured. No cracks, no chips, nothing missing.
Okay, so it's not enough for the lights to just work. They got to look good, too. Got it. Lenses are looking good. What's next?
Now it's time to check those vital fluids. Coolant, power steering fluid, and engine oil. We got to make sure they're all topped off and ready to go.
Fluids. Important stuff. How do we make sure these fluids are in tip-top shape?
You're going to make sure they're all between those add and full marks on their dipsticks or reservoirs. To check the engine oil, you got to pull out the dipstick, wipe it clean, put it back in all the way, and then pull it out again to get an accurate read-in.
So it's not just a one-and-done kind of deal with the oil dipstick. 2 dips for the win. Got it. Fluids are all topped off. What's next? Now we're moving on to the leak inspection. Time to channel your inner detective. We're going to carefully examine all the hoses, airlines, and fittings, looking for any signs of damage or leaks. We're talking abrasions, bubbles, cuts, and of course any fluids dripping or pooling. So we're on the hunt for anything that looks suspicious, right? Trick to remembering all these potential problems?
Absolutely. Remember those 3 L's we talked about earlier? Lenses, leaks, and level. Keep those in mind as you're inspecting the front of the vehicle.
3 L's. Love it. Okay, no leaks, no suspicious bubbles. What's next?
Now we're moving on to the steering system. Starting with the power steering box, make sure it's mounted right, secure, and no leaks.
Okay, so we're making sure that steering system is rock solid and ready to roll. What about the hoses and connections? What am I looking for there?
Inspect all those steering hoses, same as before. Abrasions, bubbles, cuts, and of course make sure they ain't leaking.
Same deal as before. Cuts, cracks, frays, leaks, the usual suspects.
You got it. Then you'll move on to the steering linkage, arms, and rods. These are the parts that connect the steering box to the wheels. Make sure they're not bent, broken, or cracked. And check those joints and sockets. Make sure they're not worn or loose.
Basically, we're making sure everything's connected and moving smoothly, right? No wobbly wheels allowed.
Precisely. And lastly, for the steering system, check those nuts, bolts, and cotter keys. No missing pieces, and make sure everything's nice and tight.
Down to the nuts and bolts, literally. Every little detail matters. Steering system is all checked out. What's next on our exterior inspection extravaganza?
Now we move on to the suspension system. This is what keeps your truck riding smooth and handling right. We'll start by inspecting those leaf springs.
Leaf springs. Are those like the springs in a mattress?
Haha, not quite. They're actually long, flat pieces of metal that help absorb shock and keep the truck stable. You got to make sure they're not missing, shifted, cracked, or broken. Then check those spring mounts. Make sure they're not bent, broken, cracked, or missing any parts.
Okay, so no broken springs allowed. What's next?
Next, you're going to check those shock absorbers and their mounts. Properly mounted, secure, not damaged, and of course, no leaks.
Shock absorbers, got it. So we're making sure the truck can handle those bumps and dips in the road. What if the truck has an air ride suspension system? Is that a whole different ballgame?
It's similar, but there are a few key differences. For an air ride suspension, you'll need to inspect those airbags, airlines, and fittings, making sure there's no damage or leaks. You also want to check those height control valves are working right.
Air ride suspension? Sounds fancy. Okay, so whether it's leaf springs or airbags, we're making sure the suspension system is good to go. What's next on our inspection checklist?
We're heading back to the brakes. We already did those air brake tests, but now we're looking at the actual parts of the brake system.
Back to the brakes. What are we checking this time?
Then you're going to move on to the brake lines, those hoses. Make sure they're not leaking, cracked, worn, or frayed. You'll also want to check that those hose fittings are secure.
Okay, brake lines, no leaks, no loose connections. Got it. Anything else I need to check on these brakes?
You'll also want to check for any contaminants on the brake line ends, drums, and pads. This could be grease, oil, or anything that could mess with your braking performance.
Contaminants? Sounds like we're doing a CSI investigation on the brakes.
Haha, yeah, kinda. But hey, it's important to make sure nothing's messing with those brakes.
All right, brakes are clean and clear. What's next on our inspection list?
Now we're moving on to the steering axle and all its parts, starting with those rims.
Rims. The things that make your truck look cool.
True, but they're also super important for safety. You'll need to give those rims a good look over, checking for any cracks or bends. Also make sure there's no weld repairs. Those can weaken the rim.
So no DIY welding jobs on the rims.
Yep.
Got it. What else are we looking for on those rims?
Check those studs and bolt holes too, making sure they're not messed up. And of course, no missing or loose nuts or bolts.
Okay, rims need to be strong and secure, no compromises. What's next?
Now let's talk about those tires, probably one of the most important parts of the whole vehicle.
Tires. The things that keep us rolling. What do we need to check on these rubber wonders?
Study guide says we're checking three main things: inflation, condition, and tread depth.
Inflation, condition, tread depth. Got it. Let's start with inflation. How do we make sure those tires are pumped up right?
Grab your trusty tire gauge and check the pressure of each tire. Make sure it matches the recommended PSI. You can find that on the tire's sidewall. You also want to check that valve stem. Make sure it's accessible and not damaged.
Okay, so getting up close and personal with each tire, checking that pressure, making sure those valve stems are good to go. Got it. What about the condition of the tires? What am I looking for there?
Examine the tire's tread and sidewalls for any signs of damage. Cuts, abrasions, bubbles, bulges, anything that looks off. You want to make sure those valve caps are there too, and the valve stems aren't cracked or broken.
So basically, we're making sure those tires are smooth and strong. No signs of wear and tear or potential blowouts. Got it. What about tread depth? How do we measure that?
You're going to need a tread depth gauge for this one. The minimum tread depth for most commercial vehicles is 4/32 of an inch. You'll stick that gauge into the grooves of the tire tread in a few different spots. Make sure the depth is good.
Okay, so tread depth is super important. Making sure those tires have enough grip to keep us safe on the road. What's next?
Last thing for the tires is those lug nuts. Make sure they're all there and tightened properly. No signs of looseness, like rust trails or shiny threads.
Lug nuts. The things that hold those wheels on tight. Okay, so we're giving those lug nuts a good look over, making sure they're doing their job. What's next on our exterior inspection extravaganza? Are we done with the front of the truck?
Almost done with the front. Just a few more things and then we'll move on to the sides.
All right, bring it on. I'm ready to conquer this inspection.
Next up, you're going to check those lenses and reflectors on the sides of the truck and trailer. Make sure they're the right color, clean, not broken, and not missing.
Side lenses and reflectors. Got it. We're making sure we're visible from every angle. What about the mirrors? Aren't those on the sides of the truck too?
Good catch. Inspect those mirrors. Make sure they're clean and clear, no cracks. Check those mirror brackets too. Make sure they're mounted right and secure. No missing hardware, bends, breaks, or cracks.
Okay, so mirrors, clean, clear, and securely mounted. Makes sense? What else do we got to check on the sides of the vehicle?
You want to make sure that DOT reflective tape is securely attached to the trailer. No missing sections.
DOT reflective tape. Got it. Making sure we're visible even at night. What's next?
Now we're going to move on to the battery box.
Battery box. Isn't that usually under the hood?
It can be, but sometimes it's on the side of the frame. Study guide says to check those batteries, make sure they're secured and the connections are tight, no corrosion. Also, those electrical cables and lines, make sure they're secure, not bent, broken, cracked, or showing any signs of excessive wear. Finally, check that the cover or door closes securely.
All right, so we're giving that battery box a good once-over, making sure everything's in working order. Got it. What's next?
Next up are those fuel tanks and DEF.
Fuel tanks, DEF tanks. Got it. What do we need to check on these?
Study guide says to make sure those tanks are mounted right and secure, caps on tight, no leaks from the tanks or lines.
Okay, so we're making sure those tanks are full and leak-free, ready to keep us rolling. Now, what about the frame of the truck? Do we need to inspect that as well?
Absolutely. The frame is the backbone of the vehicle, so we got to make sure it's good condition. Start at the front and visually inspect the whole frame. This includes the trailer frame too. Top to bottom, looking for any cracks, broken welds, holes, or any other damage.
Wow, so we're really getting up close and personal with this frame. What else do we need to check?
Now we move on to the coupling system. First, check those air and electrical lines connecting the truck and trailer. Make sure those connectors are seated right, sealed, free of damage, and locked in.
Air and electrical lines. Got it. What are we looking for on those lines?
You want to make sure those hoses and lines aren't cut, cracked, broken, spliced, taped, or worn. The electrical lines shouldn't have any bare wires or insulation showing, and no air leaks.
So those lines need to be in tip-top shape, no compromises. What else do we need to check?
Make sure those air and electrical lines aren't tangled, crimped, pinned, pinched, or dragging against anything.
Okay, so those lines need to be free and clear, no obstructions or potential damage. Got it. What's next on our coupling system checklist?
Now we move on to the release arm. Make sure it's not cracked, bent, or broken, and that it's in the engaged position.
Release arm, engaged position. Got it. What else?
Next up are the lock-in pins. If your fifth wheel uses slide and locking pins, make sure they're fully engaged and no damage.
Lock and pins, fully engaged, no damage. Got it. What's next?
Now we're moving on to the fifth wheel skid plate. Make sure it's securely mounted to the fifth wheel platform. It shouldn't be bent, broken, or cracked, and no signs of excessive wear. You also want to check that it's properly lubricated.
Fifth wheel skid plate, securely mounted, lubricated, and in good condition. Got it. What's next?
Now we're going to get up close and personal with the underside of the trailer. You'll need to safely position yourself under the trailer, looking up at the backside of the trailer frame.
Under the trailer. Okay. Safety first. I'll make sure I'm in a stable position before I start inspecting anything. What am I looking for under there?
First, you're going to inspect the trailer apron. That's the part that connects to the fifth wheel. Make sure it's not bent, cracked, or broken. You'll also want to make sure the trailer is sitting flat on that skid plate. No visible gap between the fifth wheel and the trailer apron.
Trailer apron, flat and secure, no gaps. Got it. What else am I looking for under here?
Next, you'll inspect that kingpin and lock and jaw. The kingpin is the part of the trailer that fits into the fifth wheel, and the lock and jaw is what secures it in place. Make sure that kingpin's in place, not bent, broken, or cracked, and no signs of excessive wear. The lock and jaw should be fully secured around the kingpin, no excessive play.
Kingpin and lock and jaw, securely connected and in good condition. Got it. Anything else to check under the trailer?
That's it for the underside of the trailer. Now you can safely get out of there and move on to the landing gear.
All right, back on solid ground. What do I need to check on the landing gear?
Make sure that landing gear is fully raised, no missing parts. Check that crank handle, make sure it's secure. The support frame and landing pads, make sure they're not damaged.
Landing gear, fully raised, secure, and in good condition. Got it. What else?
You'll also want to make sure there's enough clearance between the landing gear and the tractor frame. That fifth wheel should be positioned so the tractor frame will clear the landing gear during turns.
Clearance check. Got it.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want any accidental collisions between the tractor and trailer. What's next?
We're almost there. Just a few more things to check at the rear of the trailer.
All right, bring it on. I can see the finish line.
First, you'll do a final check of those lights and reflectors at the rear of the trailer. Make sure all those lenses and reflectors are the right color, clean, not broken, and not missing.
Rear lights and reflectors, final check. What else?
Last but not least, make sure that DOT reflective tape is securely attached to the back of the trailer. No missing sections.
DOT reflective tape, final check. Woohoo! I think we've officially inspected every inch of this vehicle.
You did it. You've successfully completed the entire vehicle inspection. Congratulations.
I feel like we just ran a marathon of inspection points. But you know what? I feel so much more confident and prepared now. It's amazing how much detail goes into making sure these vehicles are safe to operate.
That's exactly right. This inspection is about so much more than just passing a test. It's about taking responsibility for your safety and the safety of everyone else on the road.
Well said. So what happens now? Does the examiner give us a gold star sticker for our stellar inspection skills?
Not quite a gold star, but they will let you know if you passed or failed the inspection. And if you followed our advice today and paid attention to all those details, you should have no problem acing it.
Feeling good about it.